Did you know Microsoft has officially ended support for Windows 10? Upgrade to Windows 11 with an LG Gram laptop. Voted PC Mag's Reader's Choice Top Laptop Brand for 2025. Thin and ultra lightweight, the LG Gram keeps you productive anywhere. And Windows 11 gives you access to free security updates and ongoing feature upgrades. Visit lgusa.com/iHeart for great seasonal savings on LG Gram laptops with Windows 11. PC Mag Reader's Choice used with permission. All rights reserved.
Happy holidays. Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a happy holiday.
Looking for these better days.
Happy New Year from all of us here at Better Day. I'm Scott Seidenberg as we come to you on this special live stream podcast recording for the college football playoff quarterfinals. We are going to preview all four games, starting with the New Year's Eve game tonight. Joining me on this preview episode of the college football playoffs, brought to you by FanDuel, he is AJ Hoffman. You can follow him on Twitter at AJ is the Real. You can listen to his morning show in Texas on San Antonio's Sports Star, The Morning Huddle, 94.1 FM. What's up, AJ? That was a good intro, I thought, right?
That was solid work, man. Solid work. I still have a hard time when you say I'm Scott Seidenberg. My initial thought is, and I'm AJ Hoffman. And
Feel free to just jump in. Like, it's just good. We'll have the back and forth. It'll be fun. All right, AJ, let's get into the games. Let's not waste any time. Again, you guys want to contribute here into the chat, make sure you raise your hand. We'll welcome you guys in, and you guys can ask any questions that you have. We have four games to talk about, and it starts with the Cotton Bowl Classic tonight, Miami against Ohio State. Right now, Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite. The total has dipped down to 40.5. We saw some 10s earlier in the week, AJ, but those were quickly eaten up as it's gone down to 9.5. Now, I talked with Fez like the other day, and when I was doing the college football show for BetUS, and he was like, well, maybe you can tell people that you might be able to wait and get a 10. And I asked, I'm like, do you really think that the 10s are going to pop back up? Because we're at 9.5 everywhere, and I don't think we get to 10, because I think that as soon as a book moves there, people are going to jump all in on it.
Yeah, and I think the book's kind of taken that position because the total, like you mentioned, has been pushed down. And you know, I would be less surprised if the total continued to drop versus the side continuing to rise. So I think the points are going to become more and more valuable as that total drops. I do like the under. I think the under is the best play on this game. These are two of, if not the two best defenses left in these playoffs. Ohio State's been the best defense all year long, and when they've been in games against quality opponents, look how those games have played. Look at the game. Look at the Texas game back in week 1, 14-7. 13-10 in the Indiana game. I mean, for the most part, when they are playing a big time opponent, the game has kind of grinded down to a halt, and it's been, Ohio State scores a little, and their hope is that they're going to score. You're going to score a little bit less. So I think the under is the right play. I especially like the first half under. Ohio State's defense has been particularly dominant in the first half, and if you look at Miami's numbers, that's when they've been their best on defense as well. In the first half, you can get that under 20 with reduced juice right now. But yeah, I think this is a grimy game. I mean, if I had to play a side, it would be Miami, just based on that total. I do think Ohio State's clearly the better team here, and I think by the time it's all said and done, whether they cover or not, because I do think like I said, I think it's going to be a low scoring game. It might be 13-3. And it won't feel like a dominant, or the scoreboard won't say it was a blowout win. But I think that there's going to be no doubt about who was the right side in this game. I think Ohio State is going to just control the way this game goes. My only concern with the total is, does the tempo change at all with Ryan Day taking over play calling? Brian Hartline is a grinder. He's the reason why their offense is run the play clock down, and then, but it's so effective, and that's what they ran through the playoffs with last year. Was ran the play clock down, and then they'd have a 12-yard play. When you're that efficient, you don't have to be fast. Ryan Day, I think, prefers to go a little faster. I hope that he doesn't try and mess with the magic recipe that's worked so well for them this year. If he does, I can't imagine it would be in this game, knowing that it's likely Georgia on deck, and he's gonna need to get into his bag a little bit for that game. So I think against an opponent where they feel like there's not going to be a whole lot coming back offensively, and I'm comfortable in saying there won't be a whole lot coming back offensively from Miami, from Carson Beck, who threw for 100 yards against Texas A&M. I think that they'll just want to grind this thing down, and this is a typical Ohio State win. Like I said, probably in that 13-3, 13-6 range.
Yeah, we already gave out the first half under. That's our best bet here on this game. The two things that I wrote down in my notes, and you mentioned Ryan Day taking over the play calling. I just wonder how that affects the freshman. Like, as good as Julian Sain's been, right? Heisman finalist in a year where there really wasn't the Heisman Trophy winner, but he's still a freshman, right? This is his first year playing college football, and all year he has had Brian Hartline in his ear, and now he's got a different voice in his ear. And so what's that going to look like? It might be fine during the couple of weeks of preparation here, might be fine in the meeting rooms and the film study, but when it's third down and you're looking at the defense and it's max blitz, and all of a sudden, like, the crowd noise is going crazy, and in your head it's not the same voice that's been telling you all season, hey, calm down, take a beat, let's look here, we're going to check here. Now it's Ryan Day going, let's go, you got to get on here, whatever the play call is. Does that affect the kid at all? I don't know, because we haven't seen it. So that was the first question mark that I have. And the other question mark is, does Miami's defense replicate what they did against Texas A&M? Now, how much of that was because of how windy it was and the conditions there against A&M, and how much of it was because Miami's defense is incredible? Like, both of these defenses are some of the best defenses in limiting points. Miami's so good at getting behind the line of scrimmage, but Ohio State's so good at preventing teams from getting tackles for loss and sacks. So it's kind of strength on strength here when it comes to the Miami defensive front against Ohio State's offensive line.
I think the right side of that offensive line for Ohio State is kind of gettable. And we saw it in the Indiana game, and we saw Julian Sayin under pressure, and he was not great under pressure in that game. And obviously Miami is the best pass rush in college football.
Texas A&M is. I mean, Texas Tech is.
Well, okay. I think
they're close.
You probably got 2 first rounders on this Miami team, and that means that you got to be solid on both sides. And right now, Ohio State's not solid on both sides. So I think Sayin is going to be under some pressure, and that could lead to some mistakes. I think the new play caller, that could be a factor. I think there's a lot of things that are keeping me from wanting to just say that Ohio State runs away from this team. And the other thing is, Ohio State hasn't really run away from teams all year long. That's not been the MO for Ryan Day this year. It's been very workmanlike, get the job done and get on to the next game. And I think in these playoffs, particularly, that's got to be the mentality, especially, like I said, knowing that your next game's likely against Georgia, and then in a national championship game, you're probably looking at Indiana, another shot at that team that's already beat you once. So it doesn't seem like this is a spot where Ryan Day would go deep into his bag and just trying to embarrass Miami. It just doesn't make any sense to me. This just seems like a grimy do the job, get out of there, and get on to the next game type of a win for Ohio State.
Yeah, so the official best bet that we already gave out was that first half on the under. We gave it out at 20.5. And I lean Miami pretty strong. Like, I think I might pull the trigger on the 9.5. I think I'm waiting to see if maybe a 10 creeps up, and I'd gladly just fire on the 10.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think the 10 is going to show up. So it might just come down to me waiting until post. We know that the public likes to bet the favorites, and there'll be a book out there that even if like a sharp movement comes in, and as soon as I get a signal that says, oh, circa move to 9 or something like that, like, you'll be able to still get the 9.5. So I'm going to be on Miami at some point.
One thing a little scary about Miami is, I know it was windy, but you got a kicker missing 3 kicks in a game, and kicking hasn't been a great strength for them all season long. That's a little worrisome because
So maybe they're more aggressive. Maybe they're more aggressive here tonight and thinking that, you know what, maybe a field goal is not going to beat Ohio State. Maybe we have to be more aggressive and go for it on fourth down. So
the other thing you have to worry about betting on Miami is Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, Mario Cristobal.
He is still their coach, and he will find a way to ruin your money. He does that.
Okay, let's move on to tomorrow, New Year's Day. And if you're listening to this podcast on New Year's Day, Happy New Year. What's the weather like? I can tell you it's not going to be good in Pasadena. Let's start with the Orange Bowl there in Miami, Oregon against Texas Tech. And we have Oregon as a 2.5-point favorite across the board. We got the total at 51.5 across the board, AJ. This is one that I am already on Texas Tech. I would take Texas Tech on the money line, but take the 2.5 points. I think the wrong team is favored here in this game, and I think it's too much of a reaction to, I guess, them beating James Madison. I actually don't know what the reaction is to, because if you looked at some sports books came out with the hypothetical lines, right? A couple of weeks ago before the playoffs started. Oh, if it's this team versus this team, if it's this team versus this team, this game was essentially a pick 'em. Right? There was, for the most part, it was Oregon -1 or to pick 'em, or Texas Tech -1 in some other books. The fact that it's 2.5 does not make any sense to me, especially when you consider Baron Mortons comes out and says that he is now as healthy as he's ever been. He's no longer in the walking boot in between practices and in between games. And this is a Texas Tech team that, as much as everyone wants to talk about the physicality and how Oregon's front is the most physical front that they've faced all season long, and they're not going to be able to handle the size of that Oregon offensive line. To that, I say, did you watch the Utah game? And did you watch the 2 BYU games? Because BYU and Utah are two of the most physical teams in the country whose offensive lines measure up pretty comparably to Oregon's offensive line. And both those teams couldn't do anything on this Texas Tech defense.
I think when you ask like what's changed and what's changed perception of these teams, I think the thing that's, because I wanted to be on Texas Tech as well. By the way, I don't have this is the game I'm sitting out essentially this game. I may play a first half under. I don't have a feel for the side on this game. I wanted to be on Texas Tech because I've been an Oregon disbeliever all season long. I've said all year long, some team is going to come around who can run the football and they're going to embarrass Oregon. I think what paused for me with Texas Tech was watching the Texas A&M game and being reminded that sometimes you put up an 11-1 season or something like that, and you avoid playing any really good teams along the way. And then when you take that step up, sometimes it's just a little too much. And Texas Tech's schedule is laughable. I mean, you mentioned Utah and BYU, and you're right. They are pretty physical in the trenches. But when that's the best teams you played all season long, I don't know what you are. Texas Tech didn't play a single game out of conference that made me like that would tell me anything about this team. There's just not really a way to know how they'll measure up when they're on the field with superior athletes. And I know that there's a lot of money been spent on this Texas Tech defense, but they've not had to go up against a Big Ten offense this year. They haven't gone up against an SEC offense this year. What's it look like when they do? I'm not really sure. That's what's got me paused.
This is the best quarterback that they're ever going to play. Like this, this is the best quarterback here. So, and even that counts, I guess, who they could potentially play for the rest of the playoff. Like Dante Moore is probably the best that's in the playoffs right now. With all due respect to Mendoza, right? Like if we're looking at there's talks about Dante Moore being the number 1 overall pick, not Mendoza.
I mean, I've seen Mendoza. I think he did. Yeah. I've got concerns about Dante Moore too. I mean, I've seen him turn into a pumpkin against just good competition. He looks very meh to me. And the thing with Oregon is, I look back at their schedule, and when you cycle through everything they've done this year, you look back at that Penn State game that we all thought was this huge win at the time. Oregon goes on the road in the whiteout, and they beat Penn State in overtime, and it's, oh man, they're incredible. Well, it turns out why were you in overtime with Penn State? Penn State stinks. What were you doing there? Why did you only beat why are you winning these games by 2 points against Iowa? The teams that, if you're a real national championship contender, why are you struggling in these games against level competition. That's been my concern about Oregon all season long. I just don't know if Texas Tech is because I don't know what Texas Tech is. I don't know if they're the step up that Oregon is going to struggle with.
Well, this is the thing. Like, and I look at the two games against really solid defenses in Indiana and Iowa, right? They scored 20 points against Indiana. They scored 18 in the win against Iowa. Yes, I know the rain still. It's a great Iowa defense. This defense has not allowed anybody to score over 20 points. The only team that did was that Arizona State team that needed to convert on a fourth down and then, get a touchdown in the closing seconds. Oh, by the way, their only loss this year, Texas Tech, was in that game without their starting quarterback, Baron Mortons. Yeah. So, they're undefeated with their starting quarterback. I just don't know, like, does Oregon score 20 points in this game? And because if they don't win this game. And so, like, I mean, the total's low at 51.5, but are you telling me like how is this not a 24-21 finish? How is this not a 20-17 type game?
I guess my only, like I said, my big concern is this is, I mean, probably the best offense and best defense that Texas Tech will have seen all year.
Yes, I agree.
So it really is a question of, do you believe what they've done so far is going to play up in competition? We've seen Oregon, and like you said, against Indiana and against Iowa, who are good teams, we saw their offense struggle. And I believe Texas Tech's defense is as good as those, or at least in the conversation with those. But I don't really know because I haven't seen them go up against a team like Oregon. So there's just so many question marks about what Tech really is. And, if Tech goes out and just shuts this Oregon offense down, I'll look really stupid for doubting them. Because all the metrics say they're fantastic, and on a piece of paper, it's hard to argue that Texas Tech's defense is elite. But it's a lot like the Big 12 and the ACC aren't all that different in terms of quality. You're not going to be tested for real in that conference schedule. So, and the fact that Tech didn't do anything non-conference, there's just too many question marks for me to buy into them. And I don't like the idea of playing Oregon as a favorite here. That doesn't make sense to me either. So for me, it's an easy one just to watch and learn. And fade whoever wins in the next round, certainly.
I don't know. I got to take it on Texas Tech to win the national championship. So let's hope that's not the case, that you're fading them.
Did you know Microsoft has officially ended support for Windows 10? Upgrade to Windows 11 with an LG Gram laptop. Voted PC Mag's Reader's Choice Top Laptop Brand for 2025. Thin and ultra lightweight, the LG Gram keeps you productive anywhere. And Windows 11 gives you access to free security updates and ongoing feature upgrades. Visit lgusa.com/iHeart for great seasonal savings on LG Gram laptops with Windows 11. PC Mag Reader's Choice used with permission. All rights reserved.
Let's move on to the Rose Bowl here. Alabama takes on Indiana, and this is interesting. Right now, the spread has gone, it hasn't really been touched. Like, it's -7. There is at 7.5 on the board at FanDuel. Pretty much it's -7 everywhere. Total has gone down to 47.5, and that's because of the weather. It is going to rain there in Pasadena. This is uncharacteristic of a Rose Bowl. It's also an uncharacteristic early start for the Rose Bowl. Usually the Rose Bowl is a little bit later afternoon start, about like a 2:45 or so that, like, the second half, you get that sunset over the San, it's beautiful. The San Gabriel Mountain. It's beautiful. It's the most picturesque scene in college football. This is a 1:00 Pacific time kickoff. So they're kicking off this game earlier, and the weather right now is 100% chance of rain all day. It's going to slow down at night, but because it's an earlier kickoff, this is going to be absolutely affected by the rain. I just wonder how that field is going to handle all of the rain, and which team benefits here with all of the rain there. And it's got to be Indiana that benefits in the rain, because Alabama can't run the football.
Yeah, there's not even a question. This is a one-dimensional Alabama offense. I thought maybe getting Jam Miller back would change that. No, Alabama just can't run the football, period. Doesn't matter who the running back is. They can't run it right now. Indiana, I know, can. I mean, obviously they got the Heisman winning quarterback, but I've seen Indiana be a two-dimensional team this season. The other side of that is, if you're going to be a one-dimensional offense against Indiana, against that defense, good luck. And this is one of these games where I really believe if if Alabama was 13-0 and they were playing a 3-loss Indiana team, this would be a double-digit spread. Like this, it wouldn't even be like we wouldn't even be having a discussion at -7. This we'd be saying, oh, this is the number 1 Alabama team against a number 9 Indiana. They're going to crush them, and that would, I mean, it'd make a lot of sense. We're so enamored with that A with the little curl at the bottom that we're scared to say, oh, they're going to get blown out by a basketball school. But the reality is that that's where we're at now. This Indiana football team is for real. And I was waiting. I've been waiting for it to drop back down to 6.5. I don't think it's going to go there. I bought in at 7. I got a reduced 7, like -107, -108. So nothing great. But if 6.5 pops again, I'm going to take another bite of it. I just want to be involved on this Indiana team because I think that as the weather reports continue to look like this is going to be an ugly weather game.
Yeah.
It only is advantageous to one team, and that's Indiana. So I think the extra prep for Cignetti is also huge. And quite frankly, if Alabama falls behind like they did against Oklahoma, they're not coming back because Indiana is going to keep scoring. Oklahoma's poverty offense couldn't keep up, but you couldn't keep going. Indiana will score. They will continue to score. You're not going to hold them to 17 points. And so if you fall down 17-0 to them, you're dead. It's over. So I've been a big fan of Curt Cignetti since he's gotten to Indiana. And before Indiana, but I love what he's done with Mendoza. I think this team's the real deal, man. I don't think that win against Ohio State was a fluke. I think that they are a rightful number 1 seed. I don't know if they're my pick to win the national championship, but they're certainly it's hard for me to pick against them. And I think this Alabama team. I mean, we talked about this before the selection. I made a good case that Alabama shouldn't even be in these playoffs.
So did I.
And I think they backed that up with that Oklahoma game. I mean, it's a good win at the end of the day, but you shouldn't be in that position. They shouldn't have been in the position they were in this season against South Carolina, where they were down. They were down 8 points against South Carolina with 2.5 minutes in the game.
Yep.
The South Carolina stinks. They were against the ropes with Missouri, and Missouri's no good. This is just an Alabama team that's kind of been, for lack of a better term, they've been kind of lucky. And I think we saw in that SEC championship game that Georgia has gotten better as the season's gone on, and Alabama's gotten worse as the season's gone on.
Yeah.
Is kind of weird to say because Alabama, when I do the like I was saying about going back to that Penn State game and going, how are you close with Penn State? Alabama, how did you lose to Florida State week 1?
I know.
That's a horrid loss. So it's hard for me to like Alabama here. I just think that the matchup is great for Indiana. The weather is turning out to be great for Indiana. The fact that they got a bye is great for them. And I think the fact that Curt Cignetti is still probably feeling a little bit disrespected. A number 1 team against a number 9 team. We haven't seen a spread like this in a bowl game in over 70 years. So this is it's one of those things where I think everything's lining up for Indiana to have a smash spot here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win this game going away. Like I'm talking 17 points.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on Indiana. I'm gonna wait and see if 6.5s pop back up. If maybe by the time we get to tomorrow, the public's like, oh, it's Alabama, they're 7-point dogs, and people start betting on Alabama, or maybe the line goes down because people start to see the weather and they think it's going to be a closer game because of the rain. I just if not, I'm comfortable laying the 7 with Indiana. I think that it is a good spot for them. It's a much better spot for them. One question: what do you think about Alabama team total under 19.5?
I think that's almost a lock. Yeah. I don't think Alabama's going to have a lot of offensive success here.
I would agree.
And they did a good job in the second half of adjusting to what Oklahoma did. And Oklahoma's a legit defense, but part of why Alabama had so many scoring opportunities is because Oklahoma's offense is ass. and
Yeah.
and it was just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. That's not Indiana. Indiana is going to run the football here, and they're going to have success running the football against this Alabama team. So, and I again, Alabama. I mean, what do you think the time of possession on this game is going to be? I think it's going to be very lopsided because
40 to 20.
I mean, it might be somewhere close to that, just because Alabama has proven time and again, and I've been making excuses for them. I thought they were going to figure out this run game. They just can't. They
Nope.
are not good at running the football here, and this maybe it's a DeBoer problem, maybe it's an offensive line problem. I don't know what it is, but it's a nightmare scenario for them offensively. So yeah, under on a team total for Alabama, I feel pretty solid about.
Last game, let's talk about the Sugar Bowl. They're in New Orleans, Ole Miss against Georgia, and you got to help me do the math here on this, AJ, because I don't understand it. In the regular season, yes, it was quite some time ago, but Georgia was a 7.5-point home favorite between the hedges, and we know going into this season, right before the loss to Alabama, Georgia had the nation's longest home winning streak, 33 consecutive games. We know how significant their home field advantage is. So 7.5 points earlier in the season, right? Now it's 6.5 on a neutral, but it doesn't make sense to me because look at what Georgia's done since that game against Ole Miss, right? They had the win against Oklahoma, which, excuse me, they had the win against Texas. They had the win against Georgia Tech. They had the dominating win against Alabama. Like those are 3 incredible wins. And then since Ole Miss lost to them, their only good win was against Oklahoma. So like how have these teams changed to the point where this spread is actually less than what it was, or that it's significantly less than what it was, when it doesn't make sense to me? Or does that you get what I'm saying here? Like
Yeah,
7.5 at Georgia means that these teams were what, 5 points on I don't know. It just feels like Georgia should be at least eight. Georgia should be the same favorite over Ole Miss as Ohio State is, I think, over Miami.
I don't think that's a crazy thing to say, and especially given the Lane Kiffin question. And I do think there was something to last week, and one of my favorite plays last week was on Ole Miss against Tulane. It was the easiest money of the week, and you never had to sweat it if you were on Ole Miss. You cashed your ticket early. I kind of thought that Ole Miss wanted to go out and prove that they didn't need Lane Kiffin. And against Tulane, I think they were able to do that. Against Georgia, against Kirby Smart, you need Lane Kiffin. You need to be at full strength. And this team is just not. They're not going to be what they were. They're not going to make the second half adjustments that they've been able to make before. And we've seen it all season long. The best second half adjuster in college football is Kirby Smart right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you like Ole Miss in this game, I suggest you get in early. I suggest you play first quarter or first half, because I think after halftime it's going to be one-way traffic. I think that it's finally going to catch up to Ole Miss that they are they're not playing with a full deck, and this Georgia team who, there were a lot of questions about their defense early in the season. There were a lot of questions about Gunnar Stockton early in the season. Their defense it's not quite, what Georgia defense has been in the last 5-6 years. It's not, you're running into a brick wall every play, but they're now at least a very good defense, if not like the typical elite of the elite. They're still really, really good. Whereas early in the season, when they played Ole Miss the first time, there was a real problem going on with them, and I don't know what it was. I can't point to any one thing and say, oh, they fixed it, but they fixed things. And my one concern with Georgia is that in that Georgia Tech game, their offense looked terrible, and I don't know what was going on there. I'm not sure what was happening with them, but their offense really got into a funk. And I get it's a rivalry game, but I mean, for Georgia, let's face it, for Georgia, every game is like everybody gets up for that game. It's a big game and I can't imagine that the players on Georgia are more nervous about the Georgia Tech game than they are about Alabama or Texas, against guys who are other 5 stars. I would imagine that they're probably looking at those as a bigger deal than Georgia Tech. But for whatever reason, they just came out so flat against Georgia Tech that there are some worries about their offense. I don't think that's a worry here. This Ole Miss defense is very gettable. Georgia had a lot of opportunities that they let pass by in that first game. It could have been a way higher scoring game for Georgia. Georgia Tech team total is probably the easiest way to play this game. But if you are worried about getting into a derivative market, you want to get more down. I think the -6.5 is one of the safer bets on the board. I think Georgia wins this game going away. I think they handle their business here, and Ole Miss goes back to being Ole Miss football, what it was before Lane Kiffin, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's been a feel good story. It was a feel good story for those kids last week when they beat Tulane. The reality is, though, Lane Kiffin does matter. There's a reason why LSU gave up that money to get him. He makes a difference, and I think he makes a difference here.
Yeah, Georgia -7.5 up on FanDuel. That's a play for me. And the thing with Charlie Weiss Jr. still calling the plays is he was interviewed this week and he talked about Lane Kiffin's impact. And he's like, yeah, Lane's always been involved. He's involved in the weekly meetings and whatnot. But he talked about how the biggest impact that Lane has is the in-game adjustments and, knowing like when to go for it in certain situations, and also just what is he seeing during the game. Okay, against Tulane, you don't need to make in-game adjustments. You played that game earlier in the season. It was a blowout. You followed the same exact script, and guess what? It was the same exact blowout. Can you follow the same exact script that you had in the regular season game against Georgia? No, because Kirby Smart's adjusting. And so now, how is Charlie Weiss Jr. going to handle in-game adjustments without Lane Kiffin in his ear? That's a huge question mark for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Trinidad Chambliss, a young guy who Lane Kiffin believed in, and Lane Kiffin gave an opportunity. And you talked earlier about how's Julian saying react to not having Brian Hartline in his ear. How's Julian saying, or how's he feel
Chambliss,
about? Yeah, Chambliss feel about not having Lane Kiffin around. It's a tough spot for these kids, man.
Yeah, and it's easy to overcome it when there's no adversity. How do you do it when there is adversity? And that's exactly
there will be some against this Georgia.
Yes.
It's not going to be Tulane. Georgia's not going to just roll over and die in the first quarter.
Yeah, I think so. All right, guys, if there's no more questions, we're going to let AJ go. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this live stream podcast recording for our college football playoff preview. AJ, can't thank you enough for the time. We got game 1 kicking off tonight with Miami and Ohio State. And then, of course, the 3 games kicking off tomorrow. I want to remind you guys, if you want to be a part of these live streams moving forward, you got to become a Better Day Premium member. So head on over to betterday.com and find out all the ways you can elevate your betting game by joining us as a Better Day Insider or Premium member. For current members, don't forget you can join our community chat and interact with your fellow members. Follow AJ on Twitter at AJIsTheReal. You can always hit me up at Scott's On Air. And here's hoping you make today and every day a better day. Have a happy, a healthy, and most importantly, a safe new year.
Did you know Microsoft has officially ended support for Windows 10? Upgrade to Windows 11 with an LG Gram laptop. Voted PC Mag's Reader's Choice Top Laptop Brand for 2025. Thin and ultra lightweight, the LG Gram keeps you productive anywhere. And Windows 11 gives you access to free security updates and ongoing feature upgrades. Visit lgusa.com/iHeart for great seasonal savings on LG Gram laptops with Windows 11. PC Mag Reader's Choice used with permission. All rights reserved.
Happy holidays. Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a happy holiday. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.